Okay. So next week, just a heads up again, you guys will be presenting us your second map. Just put an image on the site, put a link to that, put your name in the title of the image, and then you can go from there however you want to proceed. Also, you do have one thing to write out for the class, and this is this document. It's in the syllabus here. Uh, it's a one-page document, what you got out of it. And I'm trying to sell you guys on the idea, I'm calling it curating my class, that you should do that for all your classes. Like build a portfolio of 36 of these one-pagers, because 40 years from now, 20 years from now, it'll be fun to read that and remember what you got out of your classes. Um, okay. Um, Also, I wanted to mention that for the last 3 years, um, hold on a second. For the last 3 years, I've had an intern working with me at Pixium, and I've got a document here, and I'll put it into the GroupMe. But the gist of it is one, and then you can see the previous interns. So there'll be one project where you get to build an exhibit on Pixium about anything that you want to. Andrew Gu did Making Race, which was a very courageous presentation. Chris Hughes did one on battle maps and presented to the California Map Society. And then the second part of the project is, or the summer, is working with collector friends that I have, art and map collectors, and taking their collection and building exhibit stories about what they're passionate about, and it's both map and art. So it gets funded by ASIP, um, and the range of money that students have gotten is, I think, from $2,500 to $5,000. Yeah. Did you have a question?
Oh, not about this, sorry.
Okay.
The question after.
Okay. So anyway, take a look, and if you're interested, let me know one-on-one, and we'll talk. Yes, sir.
Is log trivia start?
It's tonight. It's tonight at 7 o'clock.
All right.
Yeah. I haven't gotten any takers, so I was actually going to cancel my table, which is fine. So you can let me know afterwards if you're interested.
I have a game at 7.
Okay. All right. Um, all right. Speaking of boiling the ocean, I'm going to motor here. Um, this is what I would like to do with the time that we have. I'd like to talk about speculation on maps. I'd like to show you what some of the other students have done regarding speculation. That's 444 and 647. I want to show you the mistakes on maps fringe talk that I'm planning to give, just the examples, and then I would like to give you 10 minutes to go find a map, old or new, that exemplifies speculation, and then we'll sort of quickly look at each other's, and then I want to simply take, and I'm thinking this could be 20 minutes or so, like just go find a map. Any map that's of interest to you has become something that you're interested in. And it doesn't, it shouldn't be your second map that you're going to present. Just something that you're interested in, and put it on Pixium, and we'll just talk about it. So whatever you want. So that's the plan. So let's see if we can get through this. So, okay, so we've talked about this before, that estimation and speculation and the line between those two things. It's really important to uh, try to spot speculation. You're going to be presented with maps and data visualizations that may or may not, that may cross that line. And I'm encouraging you, just because it's in a map or it's in some data analysis and somebody did some fancy analysis, does not mean that it's an estimation. It's legitimate. Buyer beware. You're more powerful if you if you press. And so you guys know about weapons of mass destruction
Yes.
and the war, right? I
Mhm.
think it's pretty well established that that was false, that was untrue, but it was presented to us as if it was. Now, look, there's still people who believe in the flat Earth, so that's also why your judgment matters, right? There's always going to be some people who believe something that's at the fringe of what accepted wisdom is. Now, there was accepted wisdom that California was an island. So you got to be careful that you're using data to understand something and not accepted wisdom. And I can't tell you any more specifically how to do this other than you gotta go dig and ask questions. Hard. Um, cigarettes used to be promoted by doctors, right? And now we all know that that's just wrong. I have this thing on my phone because my wife has done some digging into EMF. And like I know some people who I can't prove this. I don't think the data's out. Anybody know this theory about the 49ers? You heard
Yeah,
about this thing?
because they're by the power grid and
Yeah.
yeah.
Somebody measured the EMF on the practice field and it's high, and they've had more injuries this year than so who knows, right? But that's a thing. Um, as I'm wont to do, I often will sort of, unpack something. You can look at this on your own. Like why is there speculation? Sometimes it's on purpose, sometimes it's not on purpose. I'm not going to go into this, but you can, like, yeah, I'm not going to go into it. Flat Earth, lots of mistakes here on maps. They're filled with them. Anybody heard of the Billington Sea? This is in Massachusetts, just outside of Boston. Some kid in the like 1600s saw a sea and said, that was the Pacific Ocean, and it became a thing, and it's still called the Billington Sea. California's an island, canals on Mars, that was a thing for a while. You know about that? You heard about that?
What?
Canals on Mars. So this was the accepted wisdom that there was that they looked at Mars, and because of the imperfections of the telescopes that they were using, they saw things and they ascribed them to be canals, but they weren't. So they thought there was life on Mars. War of the Worlds. Anybody know who that was? Anybody know about War of the Worlds? H.G. Wells? What
Yeah, he
what
was a science fiction writer around this time.
There was like a famous incident where
Was April Fool's
people-
Day?
I think it was Halloween.
it was I don't think
That was awesome.
I don't think
Or
it was
some-
actually a prank. I think they
H.G.
were
Wells wrote the book. Orson Welles did the radio broadcast.
Okay.
just playing it.
Oh, it's just like an audio.
They were just
recording.
playing it and enough people tuned in late that they thought it was
They thought it was real. It was a story,
Just the
but they thought it was real
writing.
and the Martians
or
were
the voice
invading.
felt like officious enough that people thought it was a real broadcast.
Yeah. This one always blows my mind. And we had a whole speaker about this subject of the open polar sea because as late as it was the late 1800s, it was nobody had ever been to the North Pole. And so there was a theory by a renowned map maker. The one on the right here is Ortelius, and I think it's Ortelius. It's from like the 1500s, and that's a open polar sea. But this is the late 1800s, and they didn't know. And there was an expedition of Americans that went to the Arctic to like bust through the ice, and they got stuck there for 3 years, and only a third of them made it back. It's called the DeLong expedition, and they did it because a cartographer speculated that the polar sea was open. Um, Map traps. It's kind of a cool thing. This is on purpose. You know about this? Aglo, paper towns, right? Yeah. And what's the story with that?
I believe it was because it was like just well, I mean, oftentimes map makers would put them in just to like make it clear, like make it clear like that others copy them if they copy them.
Exactly right.
So they put in some like fake towns, like, and I know there's this one map they put in a town, I think it might have been Enough City or called Aglow or something.
Yeah, that's right.
But the thing was, is that it ended up backfiring on the original map maker, because by the time that they actually, like, I think maybe took it to court or something against someone.
Something had,
But Aglow, some people around there, locals, had set up an Aglow general store because of the map. So the court ruled that it wasn't a real place.
yeah,
So they couldn't, they had to say it was an infringement of their map.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
What's the book Paper Towns about? It's about mountain.
It has to do, a paper town is a town that's only on paper. Like it's not real. And I don't know any more than that, other than it was a bestseller. This guy was a Michigan, this was the state of Michigan in their map. And because it has portions of Ohio as a map trap to stop people from copying his map or to know if somebody copied his map, he put these little towns in there, and one of them was called Go Blue, and one of them calls BOSU, and he stuck them on the map in Ohio so that if somebody copied it, right, they would know because they're not real. Yeah, pretty cool. All right, so now I'm going to jump to the fringe. These are the maps that are going to be part of this presentation. And you've seen a lot of these. This is when the Babylonians, this is what they knew, which was there was a ocean around, and that's the Euphrates. So it was wrong. Was it speculation? Probably. This is a rendition of what the Greeks thought in about 600 BC. So again, it was wrong. Okay. Then I think you know that Columbus thought that the world was a lot smaller than it was, which is kind of strange because Eratosthenes had made an estimate that was correct in like the year like 200. This is a map of well, this is better. So this is Japan here and Asia, and then here's Europe. So and this map was made in like 1490. We've looked at these, and of course we talked about this, right? It got named after Vespucci. For those of you who went to New York, this is the Hunt Lenox globe. Again, I don't know if it's speculation, but it said where it says Hic sunt dracones, that means here be dragons that they put on the map. This thing is tiny, by the way. That was one of the surprises to me about this.
Where are the dragons supposed to be?
That's like Southeast Asia.
That's where they had that Alexander the Great dragon sword, right? So
Yeah, I think so. You mean the Gog and Magog?
I don't remember. I just remember supposedly Alexander the Great saw a dragon when he was traveling through Southeast Asia.
Okay. Have we talked about the Great Southern Continent below? So there was this idea, and this goes back to classical times when they knew that then they knew that the Earth was round, and they knew that most of the known world was in the northern hemisphere. And so the theory was, hey, there's got to be a landmass in the southern part of the world. And so this is a 1570 map with, right, a huge continent that was just speculation. But people knew that. That was the accepted wisdom. Sea monsters on map are not, I don't know if that's speculation or not. It's fun. They put them there. There's a Latin term. Who's Latin? Anybody taking Latin? Horror vacui?
Oh, like the fear of vacuum.
Fear of empty spots. So when people fill stuff in just because they're afraid of leaving something. Anyway, these are beautiful. And if you go onto Instagram and you put hashtag Map Monster Monday, you'll see all sorts of people who share their favorite map monsters. Also in the realm of what? Conventional wisdom. So monstrous people. So this is a map from 1295 of both faith and place. That's Adam and Eve. That's the Red Sea, so kind of a real thing. And there's Jerusalem, a real thing. But here's some of the monstrous people. And if you look at the Nuremberg Chronicles, that also, here's somebody eating their foot, face in their body, right? Somewhere over here, Gog and Magog. Oh, I love these things. They're little line drawings that tell you what was what. So is it speculation? Probably. Um, the TO maps, very abstracted. And that's an interesting line between when something's schematic, like the Islamic maps, is that speculation? They make these road maps. I would say not. Um, this is to, so is this speculation? Well, maybe if it's implying that the earth is flat. Paradise was on maps for a number of years in the 1500s. This is a map from Dante of hell, but I probably wouldn't call this speculation. So there was a legend that Prester John was a Christian king who would come help save the Christians when the end of days came. And so he was on maps for a while, first in Asia, and then he went to Africa. And I don't know where he is on this map, but this says the kingdom of Prester John. Okay, so this is a pretty big mistake that happened for 100 years. A Spanish, the story that I know is that the Spanish didn't know had a map in the early 1600s that showed California's island. The Dutch stole it. And then they saw it and they're like, well, that must be true if the Spanish have said that it's true. And then it was literally 100 years, 1622 to 1720. I'm not going to talk about that one. The Northwest Passage was something that everyone wanted to believe. When Verrazano went to the Outer Banks of North Carolina, he saw that, reported it back to Munster, the map maker, and in 1559. So from the Outer Banks, it's I don't know how many miles is it to where's Travis, but it's a long ways. It's like 10 miles to land from the Outer Banks. So he thought he saw the Pacific Ocean drawn in on a map. This is a map just to show you all the people who were searching for the Northwest Passage. I love this one, the Sea of the West. This is 1760. So that's really late, right?
That was a really big San Francisco, this bay. Almost.
Yeah, it's not that this is just the Gulf.
To the left.
Oh,
It
yeah,
almost kind of looks like it's.
yeah. I think it's a little far north. I think that's more like the San Juan Islands
Well, yeah.
area. Um, okay, this is a great one, the Australian Inland Sea. So somebody was exploring around here and they saw a river and they just sort of assumed that, right? Again, like, so just because it's on a map does not anything that you see, and it doesn't have to be historical, that does not mean it's true. When Cook and Perry were racing to the North Pole, they had to fund their expeditions. And they got, and I can't remember who got this guy named Crocker and Bradley, but when they went and they came back, they told their financier that they had found a land they were going to name it after them so that they could raise some more money. And so it made it on a map, and then it took 50 years to disprove it.
So they just lied.
Yeah, yeah. So Chet Van Duzer talked about fakes on maps. And this is the famous Vinland map that Yale bought. And now they display as an honor, a badge of honor about fake maps. So it supposedly was from the 1500s. We talked about canals on Mars. We talked about the open polar sea. We talked about map traps. Okay, so we're pretty good for time. Uh, let's look at some of what the prior classes have done. So the mountains of Kong were shown on a number of maps of Africa. Someone was exploring here and they thought they saw a mountain range and it became a thing. Like it became a thing that's drawn all the way across uh, Africa. Hold on, I'll show you when I skipped over it. Mountains of the Moon, Mountains of Kong. So they went one streamed into the other. The weapons of mass destruction. I don't know about that one. There was a plane that went that you guys remember this? It was
Laser flame.
yeah, yeah. And so they're drawing a map. I don't know if this is speculation or not, but it's somebody was like they were speculating about what might have happened. This is a map that restretches the Earth based upon whatever metric. So I think this is population here. This is a map of sea level in 2100.
Limoncello, certainly.
This was a map of possible historical migration routes. There was another plane that crashed and speculation about what happened with that. A sea level map. Okay, I'm going to move on to, oh, this is another sea level map about what this map actually exists. And then let's go. Okay. Actually, you know what? That's enough. So, all right. So why don't you take out your computers and go look for a map about some sort of speculation and load it onto our 776 exhibit, and then we'll take a quick look at that.
So the 776 playground.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, sir.
Who got this one?
Really SVG.
How to what?
SVG.
Yeah, SVGs don't do well. I don't, I oftentimes have to go get them, put them into a PDF, then save them as a JPEG. Cool. Was this someone's map here? This one? Um, so let's put that, this is in the exhibit text. So what you want to do is click on fill. Do you see that? So if you're here and you click on the title up at the top and then click on fill and then go get the file uh that way. All right.
So
Yep.
we click on speculation and then upload or?
No, just go to the exhibit text, which is this. So when the exhibit opens up, like this is the text for the whole exhibit.
Yes.
And on the right side here on the bottom, see where it says fill? So click on that, and then you've got to go get your file.
Okay.
That's really all you have to do is get your file and load it. If you can put in the title your name and in the description put the link to where you got it from, that's great. Okay, well, let's take a look at some of these. Very interesting. El Dorado, whose was this?
I mean, Eldorado's on the river. I don't know if you can tell. It's like a little orange thing in the middle of the inland lake. No, below that.
Below that, this thing here. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And I don't know. Has anyone seen the movie El Dorado?
The animated
Yeah.
one, yeah.
Yeah, that's why. And also, there's just an inland sea in the middle of South America.
Yeah. Yeah. That's cool. Whose was this?
That's mine. There's in like the bottom left or kind of to
Yeah.
the right, that island there. Sorry, a little over the left. It's called Friesland.
Yeah.
And it was like for like a century on all the atlases, but it was in the North Atlantic, but it was just like a lack of navigation of the actual whole area.
All these cities are on it.
Yeah.
Named.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe someone found like Iceland twice kind of thing.
Uh-huh. Oh, that's cool. Whose was this?
Yeah, this was a prediction that someone made on a political board on April 30th, 2008, of what would happen in the 2008 presidential election. So blue represents John McCain, who they said would be Republican nominee, and red represents Hillary Clinton, who they said would be the Democratic nominee. They predicted that Clinton would get 285 electoral votes and McCain 253. And the person who posted it said that they were a Republican from Tennessee, so. It's interesting because it's very different than the actual election, obviously between Obama and McCain, but he said Pennsylvania would go for McCain, Arkansas, West Virginia would go for Clinton.
Yeah.
Why are red and blue switched?
Well, that's how it, well, like, the modern political coalition in America wasn't really entrenched until like maybe the mid 2000s.
Oh, this one's fine. So I thought this one was actually kind of on the border between estimation and speculation. Specifically, I want to focus on Scandinavia.
Uh-huh.
It seems like the author of the map knew that there was something up there, but it seems like he didn't quite know what was up there.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like Norway has the shape of Sweden, more or less, and then Sweden has been kind of banished to a small corner of this.
Yeah.
Right? And there's no Finland. They haven't said Greenland, which is an isthmus.
Yeah.
I just thought this was fascinating, especially because so much of the continental aspects of the map seem more like the result of estimation, specifically the extent and particular course of the Carpathian Mountain Range. And then you can see that the island of Great Britain is kind of like turned 90
Right.
degrees.
Interesting. Okay. Which was this?
This was there was an island called Sandy Island that existed on Google Maps until 2012, which never actually existed. It was just on British Admiralty charts from like the
Wow.
1800s, and there was a science expedition that went there in 2012 and was like, oh, there's actually nothing here. And it's not even like there used to be an island, like there's 1,300 feet of water where the island is supposed to be. So now it's not on maps anymore.
Why did it show up to begin with?
It was on some Admiralty charts from the British.
I guess someone just made a mistake or
Yeah.
something.
Does that mean Google Maps aren't from actual photo satellites?
I don't know. but
Maybe back then.
They said it was labeled on Google Maps until 2012.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's fine. I like Subway. I like Takeaway. Subway. No, it's other orders. This one is quite accurate. Like it is based on the real geographical feature of the
Is there speculation on this map, or is it just a map it's just a map you like? Okay. Okay. Cool.
This is in the middle.
Yeah.
It's the April.
Uh-huh.
You see, the subways are.
They don't go there. Yeah. Cool. All right.
I found this. It's a modern recreation of the Path of the Odyssey.
Yeah.
Based on
No.
and I thought it was pretty cool. And then if you go to all the images, I found an old version too.
Here.
No, in all the boxes I uploaded as well.
Sorry, where do you want me to go?
Go to the general like grid.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And then you might need to refresh the page.
Okay.
But I found this guy, Abraham Ortelius, made a version in 1579.
Which one am I going to now? Oh, this
Yeah, that's
this
it.
one.
I thought it was kind of strange.
So he didn't have Odysseus going to the southern coast of France then.
Yeah. Yeah, didn't include it on that.
He stops at Sicily. Great. Oh, the sirens run. Sorry.
So has it been determined that it happened? Like it was a real thing, or is that
I have no.
no one knows?
It's all, it says it's possible.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Cool.
This is mine. This is a map from FEMA showing potential ICBM targets in the United States. So the purple triangles represent a counter value targeting of 500 warheads, and the black dots represent up to 2,000 warheads landing on the US. And so most of the purple triangles are population centers, and the black dots that are added in are typically military bases and massive clusters in Montana and North Dakota, and then kind of at the corner of Colorado and Wyoming. Those are the ICBM islands. Yeah.
Our silos.
So those would be targeted in a first strike attack. So it was a little bit disturbing, but I find this stuff very interesting. Williamstown is safe. Still not told.
Have you seen Catherine Bigelow's new movie?
No, I haven't.
What's it called?
It's still not America.
House of Dynamite.
Yes, I actually did watch this one.
You have to watch it.
Okay.
It's
So-
an interesting format.
So is this speculation?
Yes, this is what FEMA guesses would be the targets, but obviously impossible to know.
Thanks.
What military installation was basically?
General Electric.
They have a lot of secondary cities, but yes, General Electric, they do a lot of stuff there with naval systems. So
I think it's an interesting question whether this is or is not. I mean, is speculation or if it's useful. So Robert McNamara, there's a great documentary called The Fog of War, and lots of generals will talk about how you don't get perfect information. in a war. And so you have to take what you get,
Mhm.
right? You got to believe that our government, right, is thinking about these questions,
Mhm.
and like better to think about it and have something, I
Yeah.
think, than nothing.
Oh, I totally agree.
Yeah.
I just find it fascinating that, like it's both disturbing and also very interesting that someone probably dedicates their whole life to studying this
Right.
and trying to make a best case guess,
Right.
even if it is very informed. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Right. So speculation is not always so bad.
Well, this
If
maybe, I know you actually raised the question yourself, but maybe it would be more a case of estimation, because
Yeah.
it's like, it's based off of things that we do know exist.
yeah.
But it's almost like trying to draw forth like the implications of like another person's reasoning.
Yeah.
Depends on the type.
Have you guys heard of the book called The Black Swan? The Black Swan. So The Black Swan is a book by he's actually a trader. Hold on a second. Black Swan is this idea that we underestimate the probability of very low likelihood events. So all swans were white swans until, and that was sort of Eurocentric thinking until somebody went to Australia and they found a black swan and they're like, oh, right? But everybody was sure that it didn't happen. So again, we underestimate the likelihood of very low probability events. Very, very low probability. It's so these kind of things are in that realm. Yeah, hopefully it's zero, but right. Okay. Whose was this?
So this was projected number of days above 95 degrees Celsius based off of different changes in temperature from pre-industrial temperatures. So they're saying like pre-industrial temps, like I think it was average from 1850 to 1900 as zero, and then you can see like current global temperature change and then future. Yeah. So you can like on the actual website you can click on individual regions. I think I updated it, Bruce. Maybe I didn't update it.
Okay.
I can put the link in there.
Okay. Whose was this?
This is a map of Atlantis, which was first mentioned in by Plato, I think, and then just became a really popular map for like historians or a location for historians to mention as like a failed utopia, and it was placed in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
Was this a real map?
According to the minds of the Egyptians and described by Plato. Yeah.
Hopefully we're going to have time next week to do a little piece like this on maps of fiction, like because the Tolkien maps and things like that are really fun. This feels like it's like it was known that this might have been like conjecture.
I mean, it was a lot of people like
Believe that it existed. Yeah.
I don't know, like I didn't read the original like text where Plato describes it, but a lot of other writers like pick it up as like something for themselves to like include in other written down. So
to be fair, if it wasn't Plato, it actually might have been self-consciously myth. It's kind of weird with Plato. He does tell a lot of myths, and how literally he takes them is kind of a subject for debate. So it's the possibility that he kind of included it self-consciously as a myth, and then it was taken up as literal by later readers is actually an interesting idea.
Okay. Whose was this?
This is me.
Yeah.
I was looking and looking, couldn't find anything, so then I used an AI tool to try and find something that was speculative.
Yeah.
And this says that in the 90s, this got predicted in the 2000s. California and some other spots would fall into the ocean.
Yeah.
And then it also said that he updated it to like added prediction for 2012 and that didn't happen.
Wait, this was his prediction for like the early 2000s?
Wait, can you zoom in as to what's
Yeah,
left of
that's what the
California?
actual said.
No.
Yeah, very
Here?
optimistic view.
Where's San
Is LA
Francisco?
It's right here. San Francisco's right here.
No, there's some
As LA's down here.
See, that'll be fun.
There's
Still some stuff there. I'm not
Hold on. I'm just gonna go. This is Geographic is a good map dealer.
Yeah, it has been sold.
Yeah. But they usually they're not gonna let us zoom in on it. Okay. All right, very cool. Let's keep going. We talked about this one. We talked about this one. Whose was this? Nobody want?
Oh, that's fine.
Yeah.
That's the first map of Australia. And well, as you can see, it's really inaccurate, but I guess as it's really old and the first one, it makes sense that it's inaccurate. Especially the right part of Australia. I think the like eastern part was more explored, and that's why they got it right. And the eastern part, as you can see,
The western part was explored first, I think.
yeah,
This part.
it's explored more, so
Yeah.
it's right. And the eastern part was not, so I think that's a speculation.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the process of discovery. And again, like this is no different than what happens today when you're making maps or working on things that involve a lot of data and you're trying to understand a situation. For Webster Pacific, when we're trying to help a client find a new location, it's the same kind of thing. There's discovery, and then you sort of you get it right over time, hopefully. Whose was this?
That's fine.
Cool.
Kind of
Oh,
can't say that much about it. It's basically it's this like it's the position of this lost continent, Lemuria. Basically, biologists were really confused by why there were like lemur fossils in India,
uh-huh.
and they thought that lemurs came from like an Atlantis type continent that sunk.
Is that this?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then I guess Paradise, they threw Paradise in there.
Where is that?
It's right. It's like you can follow the source of
Oh, here, right there.
And the
Paradise.
reason you see all these like phylogenetic lines because eventually the theory got co-opted into like a monophyletic theory of all life and humans specifically. They thought that we came from Lemuria.
Yeah.
The main like peddler of this theory were like the Theosophists or this like kind of like quasi-Christian cult in the US.
Wow.
And yeah, I don't know, there's been countless like sci-fi things written about Lemuria and stuff like that. Many people believe this until like continental drift theory
Uh-huh.
became obviously.
You know what year this is approximately?
Can you put the link in here to this?
There's a continent proposed in 1864 by zoologist Philip Sclater. Theorized to have sunk beneath the Indian Ocean, and later appropriated by occultists and supposed accounts of human origins. That theory was discredited with the discovery of plate tectonics and continental drift in the 20th century.
Interesting. Okay, that's really cool stuff. All right, so we may not have enough time to talk about it, but let's go take this time and go find a map, anything that you want, and we'll talk about it next week. Yeah. There you go.
First few minutes, yeah.
Are these going to be uploaded to?
Yeah, same deal. Yeah. Yeah. That was Noah. Thanks.
Both Peters as well.
About the to Peter, yeah. Dalton, was this you? This was you, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That's you do it. This isn't just like.
Wrapping up, we'll get another 5 minutes of, yes, I think that is open. Diana's joining. Tiffany. Yeah. Yeah.
Who's speaking today?
Blake.
Oh, good.
It's on the gotta go downstairs.
Basement.
Yeah, it's the basement.
Downstairs.
How do you find out what?
We can change.
There's like an events thing on events website. I don't know. We can look later. That's all right. Okay, who said? That's a call. Yeah. Okay, great. Time for us? Do we have a time?
I just put it down.
You put it down in
Yeah,
the, okay,
I got
all
it.
right, all right, let me just double check and make sure that works for me. It's in the tab that says Coffee with Tom. Maybe I'm missing it. I don't see it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's down for the 28th.
28th? At what, 3? Okay. Hold on, let me just double check. I think that should work. Okay. Super. We'll figure out a spot next week. All right, let's get, we'll shift gears here. I'm gonna let in our speaker. Just a second. And we'll talk about these next week. Uh, Okay, welcome. Hello, Lucas. Nice to see you. Can you say something? I just want to make sure I.
Absolutely. Hey, Tom, how's it going? Can y'all hear me well?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes, you're great. Okay. And Matt, nice to see you. Welcome.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Welcome. So Lucas and Matt are from Weston and Sampson. And do we have anyone else? Is Blake coming?
I'm not sure.
He should be.
I just
We're
sent
going to
him a
do some
message.
introductions here, but let's make sure we get the organizer of all this. And I'll embarrass him before he gets here. So yeah, so there you go. That's only from a few years ago. Can you guys recognize him? Let's make it real big so we can really embarrass him. Once upon a time, guys.
That's amazing. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Take a screenshot. Please embarrass him with that
Way
and that
ahead of you,
mustache. Okay.
Where is that, Tom?
This is in Massachusetts somewhere, I believe. So we had this canoe made for us in 1988 and we
Wow.
took this canoe from Montreal all the way to Minnesota.
You're kidding. Wow.
That actually happened, and we both made it back alive and didn't lose any people along the way.
What a trip.
All right, hold on just a second. So, and here's Blake. Okay, great.
My next door neighbor on Stony Lake in Ontario is a Williams alum from way back.
Uh-huh.
And there's a lot of canoeing happens around there.
Yeah. All right, Blake, I see you join. Can you share your camera and unmute yourself?
Yeah. I didn't know if everybody else was on as well.
Yep.
How are you? How is
We're
everybody?
good. Just so you know, you might want to look at your screen because we just shared a picture with everybody of you from
I saw the canoe. Yeah.
a few years ago.
Famous.
Oh my gosh, we've got quite an array of people here who've joined. So Diana, can you share your screen and just say hello? This is my wife's dear friend Diana Donlin, who's on. Jay, I don't know Jay. Maybe you can share your screen or share your camera. And then Tim Sedlock is here. Felleroff is what it says, but he's not. I don't know what that is. Hi, Diana. Tim Sedlock, my juggling partner's here.
Belleroff is the name of my phone. I'm sorry. Does anybody know what that refers to?
No.
It's the name of a horse in The Lord of the Rings.
Oh.
Whoa, and trivia's tonight.
And hello, Blake. And
Hi,
hello,
Tim.
class.
Tim may not be in that picture, but he was on the canoe trip as well.
Right.
Yeah. Gordon Richardson is a classmate from business school. And then we also have in the room, and I'm going to let them, I'm pointing the phone here at them. Steve, do you want to introduce yourself?
Oh, hi. I'm Steve Simon. I go by the silly title of First Gentleman of Williams College. It means I'm married to Maud.
Thank you for joining us. And in the back?
Hi, Tim and Blake. It's Bill Pulaski from back in the day, class of '84. And this is my daughter, Rosie, class of '26.
Nice. Nice to see you again, Bill.
Hello, Bill.
All right, so I'm going to introduce Blake here, and Matt, Aaron, and Matt, Aaron, and Lucas. I don't have proper introductions for you. I'm delighted you're joining. You're all colleagues of Blake. Um, I'm sorry that you have to bear that, but
Hey,
I
hey,
know what I
Tom.
work.
Tom,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna interrupt. You can hear I'm on a job site. It's very loud. I'm gonna bow out. I just wanted to have a very welcome look at Blake. See you, Blake.
Bye, Tim. Good to see you.
You too. Take care.
No. Okay. So Blake and I go back a long time. Um, uh, Hold on just a second. I'll show you the more professional picture of Blake. Blake, I don't know if I got this right, that you're the water market leader.
Yeah.
And Blake's been with Weston and Sampson for a very long time. And I am delighted that he is joining us. And Blake, I'm going to pass it off to you. Thank you for joining us. And we've got 40 minutes total.
Okay. Great. I thought we'd share what Weston and Sampson is doing within the municipal market and what present day mapping efforts are, how it's used in resiliency and infrastructure. Tom, if I share my screen,
You
yeah.
can. You should be able to now.
Okay. Is that?
There you go. Yep.
Okay. And then if I hit what? View here, I'll get a different slide view share. You guys
There
can
you
all see
go.
this
Yep.
mapping for municipalities.
Yep.
Okay. So Weston and Sampson's a architectural engineering firm. Does a lot of science work as well. We're one of the Eastern Mass leaders in resiliency as well. And have been around for about 128 years now. So started in water and wastewater. And one of the things that we do is have a full GIS department, but every piece of science that we do deals with mapping. And today we're going to try to give you some examples of that. You know, mapping has evolved to such accuracy, and there's so many formats. You know, there's this aerial data extraction. There's CAD mapping, which gives us really detailed, defined engineering studies. There's obviously ground truthing and survey that gives you map, and then the power and the tool of databases combined with geographic information systems is the ArcGIS format. And I'm sure many of you know that format. I'm going to kind of rush through these slides so you can actually see some real case studies, which is what folks here are with me today are going to talk about. So, you know, in our tools here, at least in Massachusetts and in other states, there's statewide databases with MassGIS, and these are evolving all the time, and the information is unbelievable. I mean, you can get information on the number of charging stations, you can get the number of EVs that are in different towns. You can get all kinds of land use pattern data, geologic data, hydrogeologic data, all kinds of science comes. In addition, New England has evolved as kind of town rule. So every town has its own responsibility to control and manage its regulations, and those are all based on maps and zoning maps. And so there's owner's GIS data that we often merge with. In addition, water and wastewater departments and roadways are all mapped and supported by town GIS departments in the most part. If they're not within the town, then the town hires a subcontractor to do that work. Regional planning agencies are very strong in mapping efforts. And then there are county governments, which are generally outside of Massachusetts. The counties play a big role. So in New York State and then down the East Coast, we see county government being a very strong mapping component. So some of the more common things that we're doing now include things like resiliency through urban forestry. So we're looking at where tree cover has moved and changed in urban settings, and that has a huge impact on urban heat. And as we see climate change ramping up and heat being a bigger issue, we're seeing environmental justice communities affected more and more by heat, and trees and urban forestry is one of the ways we dissipate heat. So you'll see probably an example of that today. We do asset management, which is very, very important for the longevity of infrastructure. So huge databases of where your pipes are in the ground, where your pumps, valves, all that kind of stuff. And then real-time data that now we're able to give people iPads, and they go out with the mapping and they can edit the mapping and improve information. It used to all be on paper copies, hand-drawn maps, tie cards and things where people would know what was in the subsurface. And of course, that was as good as people recorded it and as good as people's memories. And then I find this the most important thing that we're doing in these days. It's called a dynamic environmental modeling. So it's overlaying changes that may be happening under climate change, any given scenario, all of the different stressors that might affect our environmental issues. So not just the heat, but flooding is a huge issue. And then groundwater quality analysis and movement in terms of what's impacting our groundwater resources, which then, of course, impact our streams. And many of you might have been reading a lot about the PFAS issues. So you have these ubiquitous, non-destructible chemicals that are moving through the environment, and we're looking at ways to model that and manage that. So today we've got three colleagues with us. Lucas Hernandez is in our South Carolina office, and I'm very blessed to have this group join us. Lucas is well-versed in management techniques. He's going to give you a quick update of some of the things he's been doing down south. He comes from Kiowa Island Planning Agency, which was obviously the barrier islands in the Carolinas are impacted a lot by storm surge and climate change. But then we'll go on to two others if we have time. Matt, I hope we get to you. Lucas and then Aaron, I guess, will be talking next. But Lucas, if you can give some folks an idea of some grant-funded work that you just finished up, it'd be great. So I'm going to stop sharing, I think, and give that back to you.
All right. Let's see if we can get this working.
If I could do it, you can do it, Lucas. I know you're much more technologically savvy than I am.
How's this looking?
There you go.
Awesome. So thanks, Blake, for the introduction. Lucas Hernandez, I'm a senior project scientist down in the Charleston, South Carolina office. I've been with Weston & Sampson for about 4 years now, and our group has been doing a bunch of different types of work. Today, I've got a really cool example where we've been using ArcGIS and the suitability modeler specifically, which is a plugin for ArcPro. May be familiar with some of y'all, but we have found a lot of different use cases for it. So today, this is the tool that I'm going to highlight and kind of show how we've used it for this Dorchester County land conservation plan. So Dorchester County, let me try to minimize this so you can see. Oh, am I still sharing?
Yep.
You are. Yep.
Interesting.
Yep. You're on Dorchester County. I don't know if you can see it on your screen.
We're good now. So Dorchester County, one of the funding sources that we've got down in South Carolina is the Greenbelt funds. So what folks have been doing is using a 1-cent sales tax in Dorchester County and surrounding communities to try to pull together funds for conservation and preservation of land. Just recently, the governor of South Carolina asked to set us a goal to propose 30% of the entire state being conserved or preserved. So a lot of communities are taking an initiative into that category. And as you can see, Dorchester County was no different. They ended up raising about $35 million for that fund. And the big question they had was, we know we want to use this for conservation, preservation of land, potentially to add some additional parks and community assets for the county. And so they needed a way to understand what types of land that they wanted to preserve or conserve. So a little bit about the project. I've highlighted some of these bullet points in green. I think these are the items that are directly related to the GIS mapping exercise that I'll be talking. So as part of this, we wanted to identify and catalog existing green space. So what's already preserved, what's already conserved, where are there parks, where are there recreation opportunities. We wanted to evaluate the existing green spaces that they had within the county to discern what kind of attributes they had that made them valuable for preservation or conservation. We were looking at additional green spaces, distance to travel to get to a park, and then just significance in the county overall. And then finally, the big product that we'll be discussing today is the GIS prioritization matrix that we used to provide them with a tool that they'll be able to continue to use way into the future to help them not only identify lands for conservation and preservation, but to help identify which funding sources make the most sense to use for acquiring that land, whether it be through a grant or through fee simple acquisition. So into the mapping, this is the boundary of Dorchester County. It is considered a coastal county because it's just, one county in from the coast of South Carolina, very close to Charleston. You can kind of see the peninsula in the bottom right hand of the screen there. But what I've got shown is a map of the existing green space. So this is all parks. There's access areas for communities. You're seeing municipal boundaries listed in there. Dorchester County is about 600 square miles of area and about 180,000 residents with 3 main communities. And you can kind of see where the busyness is in the map toward the south east section. That is where Somerville is, which is their main area for growth right now. There's a lot of industry coming in, a Volvo plant, Google. So there's a lot of concern right now about preserving land and making sure that there's proper amount of storage for floodwaters, and then also providing some recreation opportunity for the residents. So as part of the GIS analysis and utilizing the suitability modeler, we had to identify key data sets that the community wanted to use in this project. And the goal of this was to determine what characteristics of land best describe what the county wants to preserve or conserve. So we've got a full suite of layers that we investigated for the project, but the ones that are highlighted are the ones that we actually used. So you got your FEMA flood hazard areas. One of the big concerns was we want to preserve land to help with storage of floodwaters. Some of the other stuff you're seeing in here, habitat core rankings, that is, areas of habitat where flora and fauna are able to sort of navigate away from urban areas, past roads, things of that nature. We've got a historic preservation layer that we included in here. We also wanted to look at canopy cover to see where we might be sparse and could add additional. And then swallowtail kite sightings were a big piece of this project for the community. It was something they were interested in preserving habitat for. And so that was also built into here. So this is a full suite of the layers that we used in the suitability modeler. But getting into the modeler itself, there are really just 2 main steps to use the plugin. The first is to choose which layers that you want as your identifiers of suitability. So what I have up here is an example of the original data set for habitat cores and the quality of those cores. So the darker the green, the highest quality of habitat. And you can see on the far right hand of the screen where I've taken that data and transformed it. So that is one big component to this suitability modeler is you're taking all these individual data sets and you're getting an idea of how that data set is organized and then transforming it to best fit your suitability model. So for this one, the higher the ranking of the habitat's quality, the higher the suitability score. And as you move through, so layers like FEMA floodplain, you could think of that as maybe the 100-year floodplain is a score of 10 and the 500 years a score of 5. This is just kind of the progression that we took. And so you're also able to not only provide scores, we chose to use a scale of 1 to 10, but you can also add weights. So a couple of these different layers could be weighted separately. And we actually did that for this project. We weighted croplands, which I did not highlight here, but croplands was another layer that they found very important because there's a lot of agricultural land in Dorchester County. So a good example there for how we had to go in and provide more of a detailed score. The scales can change. They can be a range of classes. They can be individual scores. So there's a lot of different ways you can go ahead and score and weight these layers. But the big picture of what this provided was entire coverage of the county. So the image that you're seeing to the left-hand side of the screen is overall suitability. And this is a raster data set with a scale of 2.5 meters. So anywhere in this county, you're able to click around and determine what score that specific area received as far as suitability for conservation and preservation. So this data, we ended up completely packaging and sending to the county. And we provided them a set of instructions to update layers as new updates come in. So we provided them with a time schedule of when they'll want to go in, update these layers, and rerun the analysis. And what this allows them to do is whenever a parcel comes up for review, for purchase, for conservation or preservation, they're able to go back to this map, reference where that parcel is, and determine how suitable it is for their community to invest in conservation or preservation. And then on top of that, because we've built in models like this CCAS Southeast Conservation Blueprint, there are a lot of suitability models like this. So the federal government, through Fish and Wildlife Service, has this conservation adaptation strategy. And for the Southeast, we have CCAS, which provides priority connections of land and water for the federal government to preserve. So this is a great layer to have built in so that there's already a goal to have the project be suitable for preservation and conservation based on the county's requirements and the residents' requirements, but it will also be fundable either through federal or state funds. And then on top of that, you'll see the image to the right has a few different colored areas that are highlighted. So on top of giving them this overall suitability for conservation and preservation across the entire county, we also provided them with the top 10 areas that they should focus on for conservation and preservation first. And that's what you're seeing here. And then just kind of wrapping up, this was one of the key tools that we had provided to Dorchester County as part of this conservation toolbox to help them determine how to best spend the funding that they were able to raise and to preserve land that's going to be most suitable for the county and for the residents' needs. So with that,
awesome.
That's all I've got.
Yeah, Lucas, thank you. Tom, you want to have anybody ask questions of Lucas, or how do you want to do it?
Sure. Yeah. Dalton's got one.
Thank you, Lucas. I was just going to ask, what would you say is the most time-intensive part of your work?
Time intensive as part of this project or in general? I should clarify. Either. Okay. So with this project, the most time intensive piece was coming up with the layers that we were going to use for the analysis and how we were going to score them. So there was a lot of back and forth with the community. That's where it's the consultant's job to really come in and say, here are the big layers that we think are important to you all. And then to have them come in and sort of add additional things. So this model ended up changing probably 8 times during the course of the project because we kept having new ideas and it was kind of novel at the time. So we were going through and trying to see what worked and what didn't. And I think making sure that you've got complete coverage for the study area, you'll notice that in that one slide I had, there was some gaps in data. If I would have left that for the suitability model, all of that stuff would be left out too. So the scoring was the big part of that one. Overall, I think most time intensive part of my job. Wow. I don't know how to answer that one, Blake.
Yeah.
I think
I do think you hit something on the head there where consensus building when there's a lot of different stakeholders takes almost more time than the analysis. I mean, if we could do it in a box, we could come up with something and present you, but then there's some fact checking. There's some, does this look right to you? Is this the right emphasis? And of course, when you can put something in a matrix and weight it, people will then say, well, I'd rather weight this layer or this issue or this piece of science more than another. And so there's a lot of back and forth.
Yeah,
So
I think that's a good way to put it, Blake. And I think too, just to add to that, once you start using mapping to visualize things that are totally conceptual, people start catching on, and that kind of invites more changes and updates and things like that.
What would it look like if you did this? And then all of a sudden you're off and running into the 70-second scenario. Lucas, really nice. Thank you.
Awesome.
Other questions, Tom? I can't see the room too well, but
yeah, we got one from Dylan.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Lucas.
Yeah.
So it looks like the layers that you are highlighting for analysis could kind of be categorized almost in two ways as either restorative conservation efforts versus maybe mitigating the effects of climate-based hazards. And I was just wondering, to what degree do you see your clients emphasizing the mitigation of climate-related hazards versus their prevention in the future through conservation efforts?
That's a great question. And that's something that we try to coach folks through, because to me, this is a very, what's the word? Preventative type of project, right? So I think what we were able to get across with this conservation plan, it was actually one of the first ones we've done as a firm. And so it was a lot of conversation around, you need to do these things first because mitigation is a reaction, right? So if you have conservation in place, and it's something that I refer back to our work in the Northeast all the time, you all have been at this for a lot longer than us. So there's a lot more infrastructure that you all have and a lot less open land. So it's something that we discuss a lot with our clients is we're still in the phase of development in a lot of these areas. So if you're able to get ahead of development and preserve, particularly in the uplands and the floodplain, you're taking away some of these potential hazardous developments later down the road. So maybe in a roundabout way that answers your question, but we try to use this as more of a preventative tool before having to go in and do actual flood modeling and flood mitigation later down the road.
Yeah, other studies have developed mitigation strategies for coastal communities and infrastructure, especially the vertical environment. I want to give enough time for Aaron and Matt, and you'll see some of those other mitigative practices. Erin Herrick is with us today, and she's doing some work for Crater PDC. And I think I'm going to let her tell you exactly how that evolved, like Lucas's project. Erin is, I can't see the screen if she's on.
Coming. It's coming.
There you go. And we are running a little short, but Erin, I know you have a good way of presenting this. So take it away.
Yeah, thank you so much for the introduction. And yeah, I think those questions really resonate. And at least with this assessment that we did as a part of the Crater PDC plan, it's kind of also looking more at the adaptation lens opposed to the mitigation lens of, okay, so the hazard events are happening, like what can we do to prepare for them opposed to like preventing flooding from occurring at this point in certain areas. So I'll jump in and I'll try to go quicker so we have enough time for questions, but a bit of background on Crater PDC. This is a planning district commission. So this is in Virginia. They're a regional planning agency that serves independent localities within Virginia. And there are 11 localities shown on this map. So it's a pretty large area. It's actually larger than the state of Delaware that they have to govern. They work in a variety of disciplines related to transportation, hazard mitigation, planning, and resilience. And then these are some of the goals of this plan, but generally it's looking to address flood resilience, water quality, and environmental justice populations. Also, a main part of this plan is to support the localities in actually pursuing projects from the plan. So giving them specific locality-specific actions that they can then receive funding for. And then also another part of this was building capacity and strengthening regional partnerships. Again, it's a pretty big area, and a lot of these localities are struggling with staff capacity, technical abilities to also map. And so we're hoping that this is a useful resource for them, again, beyond the plan and actually looking at projects that are relevant to hazard events. And then again, I would say currently in Virginia, a lot of the focus is on flood mitigation, but we're trying to push past that and also start talking about other hazards. And that's why we also included extreme heat and wildfire in this analysis. So this is the planning framework for the regional plan. So starting with the base, we first looked at a capacity assessment to understand what localities were reasonably able to do for resilience. And then we are building off of that with goals and objectives to understand the future vision of each of the localities and how they can work together for this regional vision. And then finally, the vulnerability assessment, which I'm going to focus on today, is just understanding what assets that are within the localities and region and how they're exposed to climate hazards. And then ultimately, we're hoping that this builds up to these proposed actions that are actually rooted in truth and also are really exciting for the localities to actually pursue, on the ground kind of funding. So the vulnerability assessment methodology, I don't think I could explain in 5 minutes, but I'm going to give you a quick summary. So if you have any questions about it, I'd be happy to answer. So we had a great base inventory of about 22,000 assets. So lots of asset management techniques were used in this to categorize these and also give them a unique ID, and also, again, centering in on critical assets that relate to each of the localities and that they're concerned about. And luckily, we only had a few edits from the steering committee. And again, this asset inventory came from their regional hazard mitigation plan, so it was already pretty great and pretty detailed. And then for this analysis, we focused more on exposure and the inclusion of sensitivity measures from the CDC's Social Vulnerability Index, and I'll explain that in another slide. But the exposure analysis used 5 hazard layers from both federal and state data sources. And this included flooding, so storm surge, riverine flooding, rainfall, and sea level rise. Also extreme heat utilized from Landsat Band 10, and then the wildland urban interface. And then these recommendations were selected based on the grant administrator's recommendations. So Virginia Department of Conservation and Recreation. And then this is just a slide that shows you, again, as a region where they're struggling with flooding. As you can see, we're along the Chesapeake Bay here and also the James River. So you can see that some of these more coastal counties are experiencing flooding. And again, they have this great pluvial flooding model. So that's rainfall flooding. That was developed by the state recently, so we made sure to use that in this analysis. And I just wanted to show you too extreme heat. We used Landsat data, which was looking at surface temperature for a couple days in July of 2025. And again, this region is also just south of Richmond, Virginia. And so a lot of the urbanized area in the northernmost county is related to that population center. And again, this is from USGS. And then we also looked at wildfire. So this uses intermix. So this is where development areas are scattered throughout wildland vegetation. And then interface is where developed areas are directly adjacent to continuous wildland vegetation. So you can see it's pretty scattered in this region, but all these come together, and this is how we assessed for the vulnerability assessment. So we looked at exposure, sensitivity, and I also want to mention adaptive capacity is usually a part of this equation. But these are 3 core concepts that typically are used in vulnerability assessments to evaluate hazards and how they assets are exposed to them. So exposure is referring to whether assets are located where a hazard occurs. Sensitivity is how strongly those people or systems, assets are affected when the hazard happens. And then adaptive capacity is the ability for the asset to prepare for, respond to, and recover. So if you're thinking about if there's already emergency plans in place or infrastructure upgrades that have been done in recent years. Adaptive capacity, I want to mention again, is just something that is typically included, and we're looking to include in our annual updates of this plan. So again, thinking about exposure and sensitivity, we took the point assets, so that's the 22,000 assets that we got from the HMP, and assigned them a value based on if the asset landed within a hazard layer in GIS. And then we also considered sensitivity. So this is an additive score. And this was looking at social vulnerability index from CDC to see its relation to people as an asset. So on this map, I'm just focusing in on one of the localities within Crater PDC, just so you can get a sense of the data. As when it's zoomed out, it's kind of hard to see. So this one, we just scored the assets from very low to very high with 5 classes. Our goal here is to pinpoint assets that might be extremely vulnerable and better suited to target for analysis. And then this map takes the same approach, but instead of assigning the value to the actual asset, we're assigning it to the base map. So similar to what Lucas was doing with the suitability model, where the actual base map is going to serve as like a point system that you can understand. I personally think that the committee and the client has resonated a lot with this because assets change, and as this plan continues to live on, it'll be much easier to add assets to a base map. And this is really interesting to look at because you can see where areas are highly exposed. And again, this map is just showing the hazards. And then the next map I have also considers the sensitivity scoring. So you can see how much that impacts. Right now, they're equally weighted, but very dark purple means it's highly vulnerable, and then the lighter purple means it's not so much.
And of course you use purple, right? Because it's the Williams College color.
Yeah. And then the last slide I have here is just next steps. So we're gearing up for action development this spring, and much of this will be informed by steering committee identified assets, but also this vulnerability assessment and what's coming up as highly exposed. And then additionally, we'll be wrapping up this plan by June to include not only the vulnerability assessment, but also the capacity building actions and work that we've done. And then also just a narrative about resiliency in the region and using some of the Virginia local data and narrative that's been written up in their climate assessment. And then there's also been talks with the client about having some sort of online database to house all this great data. So that way, again, they can go in and update it and also share it with the localities so that they can use it for anything related to project work or whatever they want to do.
Awesome.
And that's all I have today.
Oh, Tom, questions? And then we could fit Matt in if you want. Your turn, your choice.
I would say we should let's stay with the questions. Sorry, Matt. I think we're gonna.
We may or may not fit to get to Matt. Sorry. Yep. Go ahead. Any questions in the room?
Tech been like in use? And I noticed, or when I'm seeing most of its examples on the East Coast, does it also apply to the West Coast?
Yes, we just don't do any work out west yet. So I don't have any examples of stuff we've done. Yeah. These techniques are being used everywhere, and the accuracy of the mapping is what's causing us to be able to do that, both the planning and the science and the impact and say where it's happening. So before it was not, this would have taken months 10 years ago. And, although we had a lot of public engagement here, Aaron, I wouldn't say that the actual analysis took as long.
Yeah.
It wasn't like we're drawing with crayons on a topographic map like we did 25 years ago. So
Michael's got a question.
Who specifically is providing the funding for you guys? Is it local governments? Is it, a board of community businesses? Is it the state government? How do you guys get the money to do this work?
That's a great question. Go ahead,
In
Erin.
Virginia, this was done through the Community Flood Preparedness Fund, and it's, I would say, the largest fund like for resiliency type of work in this state. And so what's exciting about this is basically they require a lot of these localities to have this approved resiliency plan. And that's where we have done a lot of work. And that's why it's nice to do it at a regional scale because you unlock funding for all 11, opposed to a specific municipality going in and getting funding and to just do like a singular resiliency plan. And yeah, so basically it's kind of kicking off with the plan is going, it's going to kick off a bunch of projects and then they can go back into that fund and apply for as many projects that can get approved.
And Lucas, you've got SCORE in South Carolina. The South Carolina Office of Resiliency is funding a lot of this.
That's correct. Yeah, SCORE is a big funder for resilience work in general. So your nature-based solutions, living shoreline. They're doing a lot of planning and mitigation too, and a lot of their funding. It's kind of a unique situation, but it's coming from HUD, which makes it a little bit more stable than some of the other federal stuff. But anyway,
and to bring this home to Massachusetts too, you may or may not know about the Massachusetts vulnerability planning. Each town has been given or can get grant monies to come up with an MVP plan and a hazard mitigation plan. Those were to prioritize actions in their town to take on climate change. Then those prioritized actions were projects that they could apply for further funding in subsequent years to undertake those projects. And so we've seen roadway raisings, culvert replacement projects, all kinds of mitigation efforts that the state is funding, mostly to show that these things can be done. They're example projects, whereas all the towns are saying, oh, where do we start and how do we get going? And the state said, stop fighting us on this. Here's some money. And we're going to show you that you can develop plans and actions, and then we'll fund some of those actions. And they picked, multiple diverse projects for different towns to do to show other towns how to get them done. And that's 25 million this past year towards those projects, and another 26, I think, this coming year for a variety of resiliency projects. So it's heavy state funding is what's happening.
I want to open it up a little bit here. Bill, Rosie, Steve, you guys have questions or any comments, anything?
And as long as it doesn't pertain to class of 84, Bill.
Right.
No secrets stay. No secrets.
One thing that I've noticed, which I think is great, and Blake, you talked about this, is how current the data is. So I'm doing a lot of land trust work right now here in the Berkshires. We're looking at maps, we're writing on them with pencils and yellow highlighters, and we're trying to figure out where's the line. So I think it's encouraging to see the 2025 data, the climate data that's not that old, because 5 years ago, we would sit in this classroom and the data would be 3 or 4 years old. It'd be stale. So the technology is bringing us current, and you're looking at data that's pretty timely. So that's an observation as opposed to a question. And nice to see you, Mike. Nice to see you.
You too, Bill. No, you're right. And just to give you a sense for where the market's moving in the consulting world, in 2018, this group was 12 people big. It's 126 people in our firm now. That's how much demand there is for this kind of work.
Wow. Holy smokes. I'm sensitive to the time here. I think what we'll do, Blake, if it's all right, we're gonna adjourn for any students who want to go, and then let's stick around for just a couple more minutes if that's all right.
Yeah. Apologies to Matt. Thank you for joining us anyways, Matt. Matt had a great PowerPoint on urban heat and tree canopy studies, but we can send that to you and you can distribute it as well. It's almost self-explanatory. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Erin. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lucas. Yeah.
Thank you all. Very interesting work.
Thank you, Diana. Diana works in regenerative agriculture, is a dear friend of Eleanor's.
Nice.
Do you want to ask any questions, Diana? You need to unmute.
No, I don't have any questions, but I really appreciated the presentation and the complexity of your thinking and the systems thinking that went into it. So thank you so much.
It's so much fun to be surrounded by smart people. This group is
I have a
amazing here.
question.
Yeah.
So suitability, like what does that mean?
Yeah. We
What is the
figured you'd get to the nugget, Tom. Suitability.
Yeah, suitability. So I think suitability can mean whatever you want it to, which is kind of what's cool about that tool. We've used it for this project for land conservation, but we're also using it down in the Salkehatchie watershed in South Carolina for vulnerability. So the tool can be used to pull out characteristics, is I guess the best way to put it. And so
it's like a weighting and analysis tune.
Sure. So one of the ways I found it was there was a project being done in Hawaii where they were trying to cite the best type of land for coffee. And so they had soil type, elevation, slope as all parameters, and then we're able to find the best sort of plots of land for coffee.
Oh, for me? A question for me? I might be a few minutes here.
Lucas, Tom,
text me
Tom is
Loopy or something.
Tom is going to hunt you down for that tool because he wants to use it himself.
Oh no, I have one other question. Not surprising. Oh, you might. So how do you, I mean, as you're iterating your models, how do it seems like your models are responsive to the priorities of your clients.
Correct. Different everywhere you go.
But knowing a little bit about models, it seems like that does leave you with the possibility that the models are not predictive of the future.
Correct.
Like, you're going to give the client what they want, but if they're misguided, and do they know that? Do your clients understand that?
Yes. So we do. There's a little bit of coaching that happens too throughout this process. So it's a good example because we're talking about it right now in the Salkehatchie project, because we've used one of the layers that we used to help cite vulnerable areas was a future 2055 flood event. And so the client was confused as to why we wanted to use that instead of present day. And we had to have the discussion of, we want to know where future flooding is and what could contribute to it to better understand where we need to sort of save land that could, if it were converted to an impervious surface or the grading was changed or trees were removed, the hydrology could be, altered. And so those are areas that we really want to point out. So there is a lot of coaching that happens. And it's also why we wanted to provide like each client with, here are the data sets that we used. You will need to update them because some of these priority models, like we have one for the South Carolina Conservation Bank, and I showed the Southeast Blueprint for CCAS. Those models are also suitability models, and they also change every year. So we encourage them to, look at each year, do these priorities still align, or do they need to update and add new years?
And so
we've got a couple students hanging around here. Do you guys have questions or comments, Sarah or Dylan? Do you have any? You're looking for me? Okay.
Professor Tom has to answer some questions, but also Tom, go ahead.
I was going to ask, when you're going through this process of coaching your clients, do you try to make, it seems to me at least, maybe I'm mistaken, that maybe there's not so much of like an actual dichotomy between the preventative and like mitigating approaches that you can take? Because it seems that in your conservation maps, you were taking into account lands that could serve as basins to mitigate floodwater damage to inhabitants, like, I was just wondering, do you make that explicit to your clients, saying like, look, there's not a real dichotomy here between both?
Yeah, and a lot of it, those are all great points. And a lot of it is also based on data availability. Some of these more rural communities are just not going to have the quality of information like, more established communities will. So like not many communities are going to have a survey of swallowtail kite sightings like we did for Dorchester County. That was something that they wanted to add in. And I think, you know, there is a delicate balance between delivering what the client wants and then providing them with what they need. And I think the best time for that conversation is at the very beginning, which is what are the goals for this? And if we establish the goals at the onset of the project, then it's easy to justify decisions that we make, you know, particularly for scoring or using layers later down the road. And that came true with the future flood scenario that we used
Yeah.
recently. So,
and Lucas, it's fair to say that we put kind of bumpers on the clients sometimes because you can't analyze things that aren't in the realm of possibilities relative to regulations and regulatory bodies. Like clients would say, well, what if we paved this whole area and what would the impact be? Well, you can't, you know, this new development in that area can't have more than X amount of pavement or impervious surface. So there's some constraints that we do. I also wanted to talk to your probabilistic issue, Tom, this idea of what's the probability of something happening in the future.
Yeah.
So, you know, an example was a grant that we wrote last year. It didn't get accepted to the state, but we needed a high-powered computing environment at MIT to take the climate change models, right?
Yeah.
And put them into rainfall data and flooding data and heat data for the Merrimack Valley. And we were going to use a huge model then to determine what was the probability of something impacting flooding or heat. And that model was going to be so powerful that the whole Merrimack Valley, the northern part of Massachusetts, could use it for the future. So you could not only use it as a probabilistic tool, you could take it and change land use patterns or land uses and see what it affected the model. So if a developer came along and said, I want to build a mall, you could say, okay, when you do that, you're going to create this amount of heat. We can require you to do mitigation elsewhere. So we predict that this is going to cause X amount of heat. Therefore, that you have to come up with offsets. And the regional planning agency was going to use that to write bylaws for all of the towns in the Merrimack Valley so that they could create a sustainable future to modify land use patterns. So it was
This reminds me of something I heard about that Google, I think, had developed a weather model that was like lightweight and predictive, lighter weight relative to others. Are we in that realm here?
Yeah, and I think last year you saw us give you that MBTA study where we looked at all the assets at MBTA and looked at, you know, if a storm of a certain intensity is coming in, what's the probability of that asset being impacted by wind, rain, and heat? And so they would deploy people and resources, barriers, covers, whatever you wanted, even replacement equipment to get to those key areas to keep the T running during a heavy hurricane. And so Google's doing it so it automatically does it. We were having to take NOAA data every hour for a 24-hour period and manually put it into a model and then shoot them back the probability of an asset. So they employed us over, you know, a hurricane to do that. Now it's becoming automated. Yeah. So
all right.
Phenomenal
Steve?
future. Yeah.
I got a good question.
Yeah.
Hi, thanks for the presentation, everyone. Two things come to mind. One is hearing about the impact of AI on your work. And the second is kind of almost like a theoretical question about, see, you've got a model of climate change that's sending you data for you to use in your analysis. How often do you feel you have to update based on changes in the model? So like, say 2 years from now, some of the climate change data is different in some regard. How do you decide, okay, it's different enough for us to have to change our model and all the maps that are predicated on that? So those are my couple of my questions.
One of the data sets that we always use in the updates is NOAA, right? And the Cornell rainfall data. And so when those update, we have to update. The model's no longer valid if those update. Those tend to lag climate change, but they are legally defensible. So I think we've seen in the last 5 years a need to update those types of models. I expect that to become more and more frequent, and I expect AI to cause it to be almost a linkage, that almost a constant update. Yeah, we'll get replaced eventually, but we'll never get replaced in terms of getting human consensus as to what you want to look at and what's important to people. So there's always that aspect.
Yeah, I think that kind of along those same lines, Blake, I'm just now seeing this happen. So the example you gave about changing land use, land cover, and the impacts to drainage systems, we are working with Keel Island right now to update their stormwater policies. And one of the things that we've discovered is a lot of communities are just using neighboring municipalities' policies, but then not investigating whether or not they actually apply to the community. So we're now going through and doing a build out analysis and seeing what impact that has on the drainage system. Since that model was developed, I don't know how many years ago, the rainfall curves, once I opened it up, were from 1992.
Yeah.
So that changes the whole understanding of stormwater capacity for that island instantly. We're not talking about the same 10-year storm. So that was a great question, and definitely something we address a lot.
Yeah. So, Tom, I hope that gave you a feel for how much we use mapping now in urban settings for decision-making tools, analysis, and future predictive things. But there's still a lot of political, geopolitical will that has to go in to change the regulations and the ways we manage things. So.
Yeah. That was great. That was really interesting and spot on to what we've turned the corner. And so we've left
the historic stuff.
We've left Otilius and the historic maps, and now we're on to modern day.
Aaron and Lucas, you should see Tom has a map book at Williams College in the archives of the library that you can only handle with linen gloves, and it's 14.
Yeah, they have 5 of them. They're called Ptolemaic atlases because Ptolemy in the year 200 wrote a book called Geography that survived all the way to the Renaissance, but no maps were made in the year 200. But then in the Renaissance, they find this book, which has been translated in the Islamic Golden Age in Baghdad. And then it makes its way back to Europe. And then they make a map of the known world at the time. And we have 5 copies of them because Mr. Chapin, that's all he wanted to collect. Like in the map world, it's mind-bending what we have here.
Yeah.
Like these atlases are, and you walk in there, they actually don't make you wear gloves. They say that the gloves make your fingers not tactile. They want you to feel it, and because otherwise you'll rip it.
Yeah.
So funny. And it has a picture of Scotland, like the known world had Scotland cut off halfway down, and everything else was the slushy area of the world.
Because nothing can live above that latitude. So the map guy.
That was the belief at the time.
Yeah.
Tom, you don't know a Norm Levine by chance, do you?
No, is he a map collector guy?
He was my advisor at the College of Charleston, and you guys would be best friends. We need to link you guys up.
Yeah, hook me up. I always love to meet a map guy or gal.
He manages the Low Country Hazard Center down here in Charleston. So I think, I'll definitely, if I can get your email from Blake, I'll connect you too. I think it'd be cool.
So we did a session this morning on speculation, and we went through historic speculations like California's an island or the Great Southern Continent below or Scotland. And then we went into modern day maps, and they went and found some things that were speculative. My encouragement to them is, look, you just can't trust. You really should not trust any data visualization that's serious. The problem is that it's sort of easy to see the old things that are wrong, and it's harder in modern day to see something and say this isn't right, or just to have the courage to ask 100 questions.
No, Tom, all our maps are right. The ones that we make are right.
You don't want me in the audience, Blake. I know for one of your town hall.
We're keeping you out of the public presentations, that's for sure.
Oh, well, this is fun.
Yeah.
This is really fun. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the
Aaron
opportunity, and
Lucas.
Lucas and Aaron. Yeah. Gosh,
Thank
thanks
you
for
for
taking
taking the
time.
time to do this. It really is. It's great.
Yeah.
It's one of the
Thank you.
things the students
So
love the
interesting.
best about this class is I'm a speaker at virtually every class, and they really get hands-on real
Yeah,
world.
heck, they don't have to listen to you talk for 2 hours. That's amazing.
Exactly. Can you tell we were?
I think so,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. Okay. All right.
All right.
I got the
Thanks,
I got the I
yeah.
got the mic here. I'm turning it
Yeah,
on.
turn it off.
All
Have
right,
a great
Tom.
day, guys. Yeah.
Give my best to Abby. I hope she feels better.
Thanks, I will. Yeah.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.